All right, here we go on a Wednesday. Welcome in to 104.5 The Zone. Hope you are off to a great start this morning. We're hoping we can keep that momentum going. Jump in if you like. 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045. You call that number, Lucas will pick up. Lucas even got some things to give you later. You want to tell people what you got going on at 11 o'clock for the dumbest thing in sports?
We have a 4-pack of MTSU tickets for the Friday night game against UTSA. If you want to go watch the Blue Raiders after their beatdown of the U and watch KB's number 20 get retired.
Spicy. Mike Keith, voice of the Titans, going to be in studio. Or no, I'm sorry, on the phone. On the phone today in 15 minutes from now. So we'll look forward to chopping it up with Mike. Given that it is officially Colts week, Titans on the practice field a little later this afternoon. You're going to hear from Mike Vrabel at some point in the noon hour. Carry that press conference live for you, and you can really start to ramp this thing up. Now, I know they got a road rally going up in Indy. The Titans do, for anybody who's driving up. Quick trip, like 3.5 hours, I think, if you're making decent time. Don't hit traffic. And it's always a fun game when the Colts are in Nashville or when the Titans travel to Indianapolis and play at Lucas Oil, because this is one of the best rivalries in the AFC South. It's a shame that, and I'm sure television networks are probably pissed about this, like if you're looking to get any juice at AFC South games whatsoever, it would make more sense to me to have Titans and Colts later in the season. But both of these games are going to be out the way by October 23rd, which has serious implications for whomever would try and legitimately compete for the division title. So what's going on with the Colts? Colts get their first win same weekend as the Titans do. Matt Ryan looked better. They were figuring out some stuff to get rookie tight end Jelani Woods involved. Their defensive front, while it has been absent Shaq Leonard, who we'll see if he ends up making his season debut on Sunday against the Titans, they have struggled in a couple of different areas, but where they have been great is at stopping the run. They completely snuffed out Clyde Edwards-Helaire and the Kansas City rushing attack last week. Now, I think that you have to watch that game to really appreciate how it was that the Chiefs lost to the Colts, because there were a lot of missed opportunities on that field for Kansas City, and to the credit of Indianapolis, they took advantage of them. So they're good enough to beat you in certain spots, but you have to allow them to do so. The same very much could be said of the Titans, right, at this stage, that you get the win, you hold on at the end against the Raiders. Takes a little bit of literal last-second magic for you to be able to swat down the 2-point conversion try, and you get your first win of the season as well. So now, as they play their first divisional opponent of the season, this will be Indy's third, for what it's worth. Tied the Texans. We know what the Jags did to them down in Jacksonville, an absolute horror show for the Colts, as is the case. But I think there's a lot of interesting places to kind of pick apart the matchup. Certainly with the most expensive offensive line in football. Do you know that? The Colts?
Not a good look.
Not so far. That's really been a sticking point. And most of those guys are known commodities. They have a new situation at left tackle, which is not ideal, and an inferior player there compared to what they've had in years past. Anthony Costanzo was really an anchor on that left side for a long time, and they've been not successful in figuring things out in his absence. You lose, what was his name? Mark Glowinski, who played for the Giants in the season opener against the Titans. He leaves the Colts at the right guard spot, and they're working with a dude named Pinner who is not quite that. Braden Smith, Quilton Nelson, and Ryan Kelly, the veterans on that offensive line, have also underwhelmed. And for Matt Ryan, it can't be underachieving across the board, especially when your situation at tackle is kind of suspect. So as you're looking for advantages, well, coming into this game, coming into this season, what's the best thing you said about the Titans versus what the Colts had? Because I think we all knew, in the same way that we all knew the Titans were going to have offensive line problems, Like, I thought the Colts were going to struggle at tackle, but not like this. Not like across the board. But at the time, Titans had Bud Dupree. We'll see what his status is today. Titans had Harold Landry. Obviously, he's done for the season. Titans had Ola Adaney, who has given them good snaps, but of course was not available for this last game. And what they saw from Derek Tusker was not good enough to keep him on the roster for more than a week as they start to shuffle the deck again for edge help. Mario Edwards coming in, a former second-round pick. He has been in the league for quite some time. I don't think the pedigree thing is what you should be caught up in. You said third-round pick in my ear. Are you sure?
I believe so.
I don't know, bud. I believe he was a second-round pick of the Raiders. And I believe that because it's in my email.
Mario Edwards. You're talking about the defensive lineman.
Yes. This is terrible radio as you look this up. Second round pick, third round pick. Either way, not overwhelmingly an impact player at this point. He was previously on the Jags practice squad where they snatched him up from. So you're looking at a situation where you're trying to create pass rush. Who was right, you or me?
You were right because I was thinking of LaRaven Clark, the offensive lineman. He was a third round.
No. I don't care about anything you had to say after the first part. What was the first part again? I'm sorry.
That I was thinking about LaRaven Clark, the offensive lineman who was a third round pick.
So anyway, they're looking for pass rush because you got to be able to affect Matt Ryan in this game. You simply have to.
He's been sacked 12 times, fourth most in the NFL.
It's not good. 4 sacks per game is not a good situation when you're 37 years old. Even on that first touchdown pass he threw to Jelani Woods, Kalen Saunders just smoked him. Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't a penalty. So he's been taking some hits beyond just the sack numbers, and that is the thing that you have to consistently do. That is the thing that's going to give you the best advantage over Indianapolis in this particular game. I don't care that the Titans swept them last year. It's not the same thing. Neither team is the same. You're dealing with a lot of different parts, the chest pounding and all these different things. It's fine. Like, that's what makes sports fun, and it's what makes this such a spicy division rivalry across the NFL because Colts and Titans fans hate each other. So I'm not taking that away from you. I'm just saying, don't apply last year's results to this year's teams, even though this year's teams, both sides, have clear and obvious flaws that one or the other is going to be able to try and take advantage of in this game. So we'll get into this. We'll talk about what Mike Keith, voice of the Titans, has seen from this group so far, kind of how he dissects these games, how he processes throughout the course of a season. Because I think from his standpoint, it looks a little different than a lot of the ways that we talk about a football team as a cumulative result. We'll get into that coming up next. Your phone calls are welcome. 615-737-1045 is how you do that. Don't forget, we're doing the dumbest thing in sports at 11 o'clock, and we've got MTSU versus UTSA tickets for this Friday's game to give away. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
Carr under pressure. Hit. Sacked! Rashad Weaver.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Rashad Weaver active in Sunday's win for the Titans. Mike Keith always active in the booth for Titans Radio. Happy to have him on the show today. Mike, I texted you a picture at some point this summer of something that a buddy of mine showed me while we were out one night at a bar. I probably texted it to you way too late. I didn't look at what time that I sent the message. But it's just a picture of you in a Titans Radio polo with your arms crossed, cheesing, and all it says across your forehead is, I'm about to say sack, so MFing loud. And now that's what I use every time the Titans get a sack on Twitter.
That's awesome.
You're off Twitter completely. I texted you and I said that's the only reason you would possibly need to be on Twitter, because that is laugh out loud funny to me every time I see that picture.
That's a beautiful thing. I love that. Thanks for sharing.
How have you processed what you've been seeing from this team through the last 3 weeks, Mike? Because I think your job requires that you watch games differently than the rest of us, both in preparation and throughout the course of the action. I feel like we try to lump all three results together too often, as opposed to taking them on an individual game-by-game and even drive-by-drive basis. I wonder how you kind of break things down.
Well, I think there were a couple of things that jumped out to me early on. I wondered, like everybody else, how the defense would be affected by the loss of Harold Landry and how they were having to reshuffle the deck a little bit, because he's such a different player, and he's such a player that is so positively specific to this defense. And, Shane Bowen was his position coach and thinks highly of him. And, they asked him to do a ton of stuff. And so now he's out. So what are you going to do? And then you go into the game with the Giants and you're like, okay, how are they going to do these things? And they lose the ball game. And now all of a sudden you're like, okay, you're worried. You're worried about some things with injuries starting to crop up. You're worried about, penalties in the second half, about various mistakes, and you're going to play one of the best teams in the league. And, all of a sudden you play Buffalo and that all falls apart. And so you come back and you say, okay, now you've got some really serious injuries because you've lost players at the same spot. And Buck, that's the thing that you worry most about with injuries. Everybody has injuries. I get that. But when you start to lose multiple nickelbacks, multiple pass rushers, your left tackle, the guy who was going to be your slot receiver, all of these things, you're like, all right, so now how do you break this down? And I thought they did a pretty dang good job of putting a game plan together and having a team ready to play, and then going out and beating a team that was sort of in a similar position, not just record-wise, but overall, in the Raiders. So, they're 1-2, and they're figuring out what they're going to look like going forward, knowing that they're going to have at least another week or two, probably into the bye, where they're going to have some deficits personnel-wise. They're bringing in 3 new veterans this week, because they need help right away. And, you're trying to figure out what you can do best, because what you understand is this is such a long season that if you can continue to hang on, and if the injuries don't decimate you too much, if you just keep improving a little bit and keep hanging in there, this whole thing is going to look very different by the time we get to November and into December. So that's the part of it right now that they're dealing with. They had to win a game. They did that. And now they've got a chance to win a division game on the road, which would be very big, not just in terms of strategically, but also psychologically for them going forward. I mean, they go get this and they're back to even at 2-2. Then you're saying, okay, here we go.
And Mike Vrabel makes that horse racing analogy every time he talks to the players or talks to the media about how you kind of process a season as an NFL team, and basically articulates that exact same thing. The injuries are, everybody's got the injuries though, Mike. Like, I'm looking at Tampa Bay, I'm looking at the Chargers, who the Titans will play later on down the schedule. Like, everybody is, it seems, is the walking wounded already. in week 3, so it's not like other teams aren't having to make these same accommodations. I guess, though, from game to game, if you're looking for places on Sunday that you saw them play better, positionally, individually, whatever the case may be, what do you think has been the biggest area of growth for them as they try and figure out what that counterpunch, for lack of a better term, is going to be as they adjust to personnel and different things?
Have you still got me?
I sure do. Did I lose you?
Okay, I lost you for just a second.
You know what, Mike? That's because I asked a way too long question. That's on me.
No. I think it's a good question. I don't think we probably know the answer to that yet because you've been filling holes so much. You know, I mean, when you play a game without Harold Landry, Bud Dupree, and Ola Adeniyi at outside linebacker, I mean, you just don't have that many guys on the roster who play that. You know, I mean, you don't have that many body types. It's not like you can go out and sign another $18 million player. They're just not available, and you don't have the cap room. So, you know, I think overall you have seen some progress in the offensive line, which is something that I felt like was going to take some time with 2 new starters, and now you've got 3 new starters. You know, the guy who, you know, is your best player in the offensive line, Taylor Lewan, is gone for the year. And so now you're having to figure out that you're playing 2 new tackles and a new left guard. And you had one of the best left guards in the NFL last year in Roger Saffold, who unfortunately you couldn't afford to keep. So I think they've made pretty good progress. Their protection has been pretty good, and they ran the ball better the other day. I thought Derrick Henry really had a good day, and watching it back, I mean, that guy ran hard. There were some situations, there wasn't a lot there that he made more. I thought he ran the way they wanted him to in week 1 when there were more holes in the game against the Giants.
Yeah.
He probably would have gained, you know, several more yards had he had that. I think the biggest thing I'm taking right now is we see the comfort out of him again. We see the flow. We see, you know, now he's had a couple of weeks of being hit. This is what we had hoped to see in the playoffs last year. Get through the Cincinnati game, and then the rust gets knocked off, and then you play Kansas City, and then you play the Super Bowl, and, hey, we go win the whole thing because he's getting it back. Well, now we're 3 weeks into this season, and the rust is clearly off, and he is running very well again. And I loved what they did getting him the touches in the pass game too. Just saying, okay, fine, we'll take the dump down. We'll take the screen. We just want to get the ball in his hands. So I think overall, you know, a real good part of it there, but there's still, you know, there are just so many areas. The 8 penalties for 74 yards average per game. I mean, that's got to stop. I mean, this is not a team right now that can afford anything like that. They need to cut those numbers in half. And, you know, there are other areas they've got to do the same thing.
And certainly that's been the case for Mike Vrabel coach teams across the last couple of years of his tenure. I think that not just Henry, though, Mike, but to have, even if it was a limited amount of work, like to have Dontrell Hilliard back as a complementary piece to the offense, the way that you and I talked about this summer, as I'm sure you did in as many interviews as I'm sure you did this summer. Like there's so much there that kind of made it or allowed it to look a little more like they want it to look after, I mean, week 2 just being a failure across the board, not just in one facet, but in almost every way possible, in a way that it just kind of snowballed on you.
Yeah, when you get run out of the house like that, you don't talk about anything as far as being, you know, a big positive. So you got those guys back, you know, getting Fulton and getting Hilliard back were big factors. You know, Vrabel said Monday night on the Mike Vrabel show that Fulton might have played his best game as a Titan in the win over the Raiders.
He was nasty out there.
He did a good job. And then getting Hilliard back in, seeing the 30-yard third down catch and a couple of the runs. You know, that's the thing about this offense is it was going to look different from the last few because you did lose some people, but also you've gained some different elements. You know, they found Dontrell Hilliard at the end of last year, and financially they could afford to keep him, and so they did. And, you know, they may have found the best third down back this franchise has had in a long, long time. So having him as part of this offense is really a good thing. As you say, he's a weapon, because when you think about the backside of the backfield, there's really nobody to cover him. You know, if you're in the situation where you have time and you can find them, they're generally going to be open because the other team's worried about wide receivers and tight ends. And if they are matched up, it's with a linebacker who can't run nearly as well as Dontrell Hilliard can. So, you know, that's a nice third down element. That's a nice element in 2 minutes. You saw more of it. They've got to take what they did last Sunday and then build on it. And after you win, what I've seen over the years is when the guys came back into the building this morning, they're more bought in to everything because you showed them a plan, you executed the plan, you won the game, and now you walk back in and everybody says, okay, this is how we do it. Now you've got to follow that up. Everybody understands what you're trying to do. It's not going to look a lot different than what you have to do this week. You know, you've got to be more physical on the lines of scrimmage, and you've got to cut down the mistakes. The other thing you've got to do, too, is you've got to get a pass rush on Matt Ryan. You have to get a pass rush on him. And those are the things that they've got to figure out this week. It's not a complicated problem, Buck. It really isn't. It's easier said than done, however. You know, that's the part of it.
Mike Keith, voice of the Titans, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. You can hear Mike on Sundays, obviously, across the Titans radio network, as well as the official Titans podcast presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. You can go check the podcast out wherever it is that you get your podcast. They do great interviews. They have weekly recaps and the 4 down segment for each of the games as they go along. It's really, really good stuff. If you are not getting enough Titans content, the Titans radio crew is producing it writ large. Colts, surprised, I guess, probably the entire league by the way that they looked early on in the season. They get a win against Kansas City at home, which, you know, the same kind of thing we're talking about for the Titans, something for them to build upon. I think, though, the protection, though, is still the thing that kind of, you know, watching that game back, their Chiefs game, Mike, just how bad that offensive line is performing through these 3 games. They've seen some good defensive players in Jacksonville, I think, is a legit problem that we'll get to later on in the season. But I think that protection part of Matt Ryan and getting a pass rush, as you mentioned, that's the biggest advantage that they would have to win this thing.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple things that tie into that. I mean, the first part of it is in the Jacksonville game, Matt Ryan didn't have any of his weapons. And here's the bottom line. I don't care how good your offensive line is. I don't care if you've got 5 Hall of Famers up there. They're only going to be able to protect for so long. The ball has got to come out. It has got to come out, especially when you have a quarterback who's not really mobile anymore, like Matt Ryan is in his 15th year. And so the issue for Matt Ryan is he's new. The guys he's playing with are new, and some of them have been out. You know, he lost his top 2 receivers. He really doesn't have that tight end connection that he's used to having. Nyheim Hines is certainly a good weapon out of the backfield, but I think that's a big part of where they are right now is they're still trying to figure it all out. You know, getting Pittman back was obviously a help. Getting Pierce, the rookie, back was obviously a help. And, you know, he's going to get the ball out as fast as he can because he understands that whether the offensive line is good, bad, or indifferent, you've only got so much time. But if he can't, he's going to take the hit rather than make the bad throw. That's going to be his mindset, is he's going to try to avoid the big mistake. He has thrown 4 picks this year. He has lost 2 fumbles. But again, they're kind of growing and learning in terms of what they're going to do. He didn't have the big mistakes in the Kansas City game that he had in the first 2 weeks against Houston and Jacksonville. And so that's where not only winning the game, but that's the place where they take the most improvement offensively.
What's your favorite part of Colts week?
Oh, it's a good question. I think just the build up to it, going up there, and, you know, we didn't win up there for so long, and we had not won in that building for so long, and now have won 3 in a row. And you're trying to, you know, you're trying to carry that over, and you're understanding, you know, it's a twofer. this one counts too. This is a win for you and a loss for them, or hopefully not, vice versa. The Titans won the division by playing better in the division 2 years ago, and they won the division last year because they beat the Colts twice. They put the Colts behind the 8 ball, and then the Colts faded down the stretch, but the Titans still would have been able to win the division. Bottom line, you understand what these games mean, especially because the Titans and the Colts will be done with one another by October 23rd, and that's really remarkable, Buck. That you're done with one division opponent in that same way, and that we won't even see Jacksonville for the first time until December the 11th. So, there's a lot of football to be played, and now we're going to see if the Titans can build on what they were able to do in a solid, if unspectacular, win over the Raiders.
You know who he is. He's Mike Keith, voice of the Titans, best in the business. Titans radio on the call, noon, the kickoff local in Central Time up at Indianapolis. Titans countdown starts at 11 a.m. Mike, always a pleasure, and thanks for stopping by, buddy.
It is my pleasure, Buck. Thanks for having me on.
That's Mike Keith with us on 104.5 The Zone. I wanted so badly for Mike to lean into the meme thing. I got so excited to tell him about the picture. He's just like, oh, yeah, I'm not on the internet. That's great.
Good for him.
Honestly, it's got to be this man has a million different speaking engagements, and he's got to prepare for games, and he's got to, he's got all this content that they're producing in-house. I think that most of us would probably benefit in our efficiency in our work lives if we were more like Mike Keith. But a lot of good points there made. Now, something that is broken out. Have you been paying attention to the Zone TV chat during the course of this conversation? There is a lot of stupidity going on in there. I love each and every one of you, as I do everybody who listens to the show anywhere and any way that you consume it. But the idea that there is a conversation going on about how a team like the Titans doesn't need Dontrell Hilliard. Can you explain to me what I'm seeing here?
Kay Oldham in the YouTube chat saying Hilliard would be great for another team. Titans don't need him. He's more of a clunky piece that discombobulates the offensive cohesion with the main offensive guys. I don't even know what that means. No,
it's basically a foreign language. Did your offensive cohesion look all that great without Dontrell Hilliard on Monday Night Football against the Bills? You don't think you could have used a little bit of a better pass-catching option and somebody to kind of change of pace things and use as an additional wide receiver? Who are your main offensive guys right now? Please tell me. Distracts from whom? Derrick Henry? Respectfully, that may be one of the dumbest things I've ever seen on the internet. Just based off what we're all watching the same games, right? Dontrell Hilliard is a critical piece in the same way that Derrick Henry is, just as a safety valve. I'm not looking for every pass to be 25 yards down the field and a Traylon Burks catch and run for 70 more. Like, it doesn't all have to look that way. It's just about what makes your passing game go rather than it be constipated the way that it looked against Buffalo. You also couldn't protect. There's a million different issues, but, come on. He contributed, no denying, but he disrupts the offensive game plan.
What does that mean?
Nothing. It means absolutely nothing. I'm not saying, Kay Oldham, that you don't know anything about football. I'm simply alleging that you are behaving like somebody who doesn't know anything about football or is just watching a completely different team.
He's contributing. He's catching passes. He's catching passes out of the backfield. He's running the ball well.
30-yard catch on a third. It was like a 3rd and 15 conversion.
I just love that logic. He's contributing. He's catching passes. He's moving the chains. He's scoring, but he's completely discombobulating the offense.
What the hell does that even mean? I'm so confused. It really is crazy. Because, I think that maybe you and I don't necessarily understand how other people listen to the show. Like that dude that called in yesterday saying something about what he watched on A to Z, and it was completely disconnected from what the conversation was. Like maybe people are just, ignoring us and carrying on their own conversation. Maybe so. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. College football, the Vols are off, but there are consequential SEC games being played. Lucas has got his SEC Week 4 takeaways coming up next. Welcome back. Dumbest thing in sports this week coming up at 11 o'clock. 4 tickets to MTSU UTSA this Friday in Murfreesboro for Titan safety Kevin Byard's jersey retirement night. That's what we got for you. So be thinking about your dumbest thing in sports. We'll get to those at 11. So there's a couple of things that we need to do, including Lucas's SEC Week 4 takeaways. Week 4 takeaways, right?
Week 4.
Okay. My sheet says Week 3. That's why I ask.
No, it doesn't.
Did you change it?
No.
I changed it. Anyway, there is a couple of different things that we're talking about, including the Titans and the Colts, which will take place on Sunday. The polls, we do the polls on Twitter at Buck Rising. You can vote on them at any point. We'll update them at the end. Lucas put out one for my account this morning. What is the best advantage the Colts have on the Titans? There's a response from Michael and a bunch of numbers after it like a bot, except it's Coltiac arrest as opposed to cardiac. Clever. The biggest advantage or the best advantage the Colts have on the Titans is better sports talk radio. That one made me laugh. Because normally they go after the fans. Fan-on-fan crime. But we could start some trouble out in these streets. You think it's worth stirring up some Colts fans? I don't know how many, I doubt there's many Colts fans that follow me on the internet, but I feel like we could have some fun at their expense. I'm trying to think of something devious I can devise to kind of troll some people on the internet this week. Just to give us something to do. I don't know.
I don't know many Colts fans. I know 2.
I see a lot more of them in Nashville, just I think by nature of transplants, like on Sundays and stuff like that when I'm driving into work at Nissan Stadium. But anyway, what's the SEC Week 4 takeaways that you brought from a weekend where Tennessee and Florida was the headliner, certainly for us, but a couple of different interesting results around the league?
Yeah, last week, one of the takeaways was that Georgia is starting to show some things that we got used to Alabama showing in the peak Nick Saban years in the 2011, 2012 type of era, as far as that style of football when Georgia went on the road and just completely snatched away South Carolina's soul within 2 quarters of play. But they kind of took a couple steps back in drawing those comparisons on Saturday when they beat Kent State 39-22 in Athens. Seemed a touch disinterested on Saturday. Georgia allowed more than 17 points in one game in all of last year. And they do it in the 4th game of the season against a 1-3 Kent State team on Saturday. Now, this Kent State team has gone through a gauntlet of playing Washington and Oklahoma and Georgia, and they scored more points on Georgia than they did any of those other 2 teams. So, Georgia's still the best team in the country, I think. Brock Bowers scored a 75-yard touchdown on the first play of the game. He is an absolute freak. This doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things on how they could contend for an SEC championship. But last week, that was the conversation. Okay, now they're starting to look like what we got used to Alabama looking like. This week, it's not so fast because that's not something you saw from Alabama in peak Nick Saban years when he had his best teams there, pumping the brakes, looking disinterested.
Yeah, Kent State is different than keeping it close against Texas.
I mean, the game was 19-13 late in the second quarter before Stetson Bennett scored to put them up 13 at half. It's a 10-point game in the 4th quarter, and it was never in doubt, but they also just never completely buried them, which was interesting to see. So I guess pumping the brakes on what I said last week of Georgia slowly spinning into what we've gotten used to as far as seeing Alabama these last few years.
So that, I think, is the question is how much discernibly better, or do we still think Georgia is discernibly better than Alabama this year? I think those conversations have been had, even as Alabama has looked certainly overwhelming at times. Georgia has done the same. But it's kind of a thing where I've seen a lot of people around the Georgia conversation this week pointing to Alabama and saying, look at them. They had a close game too. And it's just it's different.
I mean, Alabama did to an SEC team in Vanderbilt what Georgia couldn't do to Kent State.
Right. And Texas is not the same thing as Kent State. You cannot. It's like Kentucky struggling against Northern Illinois. Now, Northern Illinois has had good football programs before, but not at the level that should be competing with a potentially first-round pick at quarterback who is yet to really look any kind of overwhelmingly special, and a team that's, had some closer moments than you might have otherwise expected them to have. I'm glad to see that there's some kind of parity. I mean, even if, I know that everybody wants their teams to go undefeated and look overwhelming at every point, and that blowouts are better in college football than they are at the professional level because it means that your team has a legitimate chance to compete later on in the season, SEC titles, college football playoff, whatever the case may be. But, I want to see Georgia and Alabama look a little mortal. I want to know so I'm not just going down the line and predicting or looking at schedules for Tennessee, for example, and saying, yeah, Georgia and Alabama, those are L's. No, keeps you engaged. This is the whole thing. This is the biggest thing I think that college football struggles with from a retention standpoint. You just lose people early on in the season because you look at the Georgias and Alabamas, Ohio State, Clemson, who, by the way, DJ, I hadn't seen that game until yesterday. There was an ACC Network replay. DJ looked really good against Wake Forest. That was a big revelation for me after as much time as we've spent talking about how poor he played early on to start the season. Point being, you lose fan bases, you lose people's interest earlier when you just have teams rolling over one another.
Biggest SEC game outside of Knoxville on Saturday was in Dallas with Arkansas and Texas A&M, and A&M gets the win 23-21. Arkansas missing the potentially game-winning field goal off the top of the upright. Doinked literally off the very top of the upright. But A&M took some punches early in that game, and it looked like, it was on its way to being a rout. Arkansas takes a 14-0 lead, then it's 21-7. And then that defense stood tall with one of the best defensive plays you're going to see all season long with KJ Jefferson for Arkansas on the 1-yard line, just trying to sneak it into the end zone, fumbles the football. It's run back to about the 20 where Raheem Sanders, the running back for Arkansas, catches up to the defender. Looks like he's going to take him down, and he hands it off to his teammate who runs it the rest of the way for the touchdown. So A&M gets a massive win. They've won twice since losing to App State. And I would like to take this moment to say you saying Texas A&M is not a good football team is not a good take right now, because they showed us that while they have issues on offense, and they probably will all season long, they can overcome them to win some big games like they did on Saturday with one of the nation's best defenses. They have Alabama next weekend, and that has the potential to be a bloodbath. It also has the potential for their defense to give Alabama fits and A&M just not be able to find enough on the offensive side of the ball.
I corrected myself yesterday about Texas A&M. I said they are a talented team that is poorly coached. Actually, the defense is not poorly coached. The offense, I'm not crazy about, just generally. But I don't think I went too far yesterday when I said Texas A&M is objectively a bad team. That's not how I should have phrased it. Now, games this weekend that are of consequence while Tennessee is on the bye. I think the biggest one, as you mentioned, Alabama going to Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Arkansas after a down performance or a letdown performance against Texas A&M. That's probably the biggest game on the schedule anywhere across college football, not just in the SEC, as I kind of peel through this thing. Clemson's got NC State at home. Outside, if you're looking at college football playoff implications, and then in the SEC, Texas A&M and Mississippi State is another game that is worth watching.
Kentucky Ole Miss is in Oxford, 2 4-0 teams. Both have struggled at times to put away Group of 5 opponents. Both won by a possession last week. Ole Miss escaping against Tulsa. Kentucky winning by 8 against Northern Illinois.
That's an 11 o'clock game,
That's
too?
That's an 11 a.m. game.
What are they doing?
In Oxford. And Lane Kiffin with some choice words about fans leaving Ole Miss games early this season. He doesn't seem too thrilled with coming out for the second half, and in his words, it looking like a high school atmosphere.
Hey, man,
at Vaught Hemingway.
Their bar. Have you been to Oxford?
I've never been to Oxford.
Their bars close at like 10 o'clock. I don't blame people for leaving games. Like, you got to, like they do, their bars close super early, and then they do these things called late nights, which is you just go to somebody's house and hang out and drink more. And I don't understand the logic behind that at all. But yes, if I'm an Ole Miss fan, I'm leaving those games early because I want to go to the library, which is the name of the bar down there off the alley. Where the drunk sorority girls try to pet the police horses and then get put in an arm bar, which is always funny comedically.
Curious to see if we learn anything from Ole Miss's quarterback situation against that Kentucky defense. Will Levis, on the flip side, has played well this season, but he's spending way too much time on the ground. I think he's averaged being sacked 4 times per game. I don't know that Zach Evans is going to play in this game. The Ole Miss running back is one of the most talented players in the SEC this year. He's banged up. Ulysses Bentley, the other running back for Ole Miss, the transfer from SMU, also banged up coming into this game. Not sure if he's going to play. But whoever wins this game has the potential to get off to like a 6-0 start in the regular season if things sort of fall in the correct place for them.
LSU is playing Auburn. Of course, LSU is Tennessee's next opponent at Death Valley, and they are traveling to Auburn. I mean, really, the only reason to watch this game is, one, if you're a Vols fan and you want to see what LSU looks like the week before you play them, and 2, to see if Brian Harsin gets fired this week.
Yeah, I mean, this rivalry, weird things happen all the time. It's in the Plains, too. Strange things happen on the Plains. But Auburn's just not a very good football team right now. Like, this iteration of Auburn should absolutely win by multiple possessions against what we see from Mizzou right now. And they should have lost that game. They really should have lost that game. If a Mizzou running back doesn't stretch out the football desperately at the 1 in overtime and fumble out the back of the end zone, they have it 1st and goal on the 1 with a chance to punch it in for a game-winning touchdown. So, I don't know. Will this be the game that gets Brian Harsin fired? I mean,
don't enjoy that so much.
They're just going to keep. I think it's so dumb. They're just going to keep playing this game week in and week out. Okay, if he loses this one, then we'll fire him.
Do you think they fire him the way that Herm Edwards got fired? We still haven't talked about that.
Yeah. Is that what happened, do you think?
That he got fired on the field?
I mean, he just had a discussion with the leadership at Arizona State, and people are just assuming that was the moment he got fired.
We also never talked about it wasn't even a full report in and of itself. Honestly, I wish I had more information on it. It was just like a sidebar in an athletic article about Herm Edwards getting fired, saying his coaching staff was leaking information.
Yeah, that was a crazy story.
But that wasn't the story. Like, the story was about Herm Edwards getting fired, and then it was just like a side note. Oh yeah, his coaches were leaking information to help him get fired. And then everybody just moved on. Like, there was no like fleshing that out a little bit more. I feel like it's what's going on with Ime Udoka. If you paid attention to any of this, I mean, it is honestly crazy. I wish that we had time. I wish that anybody cared about the story that's going on in the NBA right now. If it wasn't football season, maybe I'd have a shot at it. But of course, we're just here to get you from football game to football game. Like, the reporting around the Ime Udoka thing was crazy, where it goes from year-long suspension for having an affair to then you're throwing out a different report with the word consensual in it, which completely changes the conversation. And all of it's just being debated on First Take by Stephen A. and Mad Dog in ways that are cringy.
William Titan in the YouTube chat says, Chris Rodriguez didn't even mention him returning for Kentucky against Ole Miss. Dude, do your job. Kentucky wins by 10.
He's yelling at me, do your job.
I think he's yelling at me because I didn't bring up Chris Rodriguez. And that's all well and good. Chris Rodriguez is a fine running back, but Kentucky's averaging 81 yards per game on the ground. That's second worst in the SEC, with only Mississippi State behind them, who runs the air raid and barely runs the football. So I don't know if that offensive line is going to hold up no matter who is running the football for Kentucky.
You feeling attacked?
I am feeling a little attacked.
J. Cole 4747 on Twitch says, as a Celtics fan, it's an absolute mess at 104.5 The Zone. Yeah, it's anyway, that concludes our Celtics coverage for the week. Coming up next, it's the dumbest thing in sports this week. 615-737-1045. You give us the dumbest thing in sports this week for your chance to win 4 tickets to MTSU versus UTSA in Murfreesboro this Friday for Titans safety Kevin Byard's jersey retirement night. It's a blackout. It's going to be a great atmosphere. They're coming off a big win. So the dumbest thing in sports this week with your chance to win tickets coming up next.
It is 11:05. Good morning from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Some roster adjustments made on Tuesday for the Titans, signing offensive lineman LaRaven Clark from the Eagles practice squad to the active roster. The former third-round pick in the 2016 draft has played 51 career games with 16 career starts in his time with the Colts and Eagles. The team also signed veteran linebacker Joe Schobert to the practice squad while releasing outside linebacker Jerry Green. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Here we go. Hour number 2 off and rolling on a Wednesday. Welcome in. Welcome back to 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica back there making it happen. I'm Buck Rising. I'm here with you until 1 o'clock. You're going to hear from Titans head coach Mike Vrabel at 12:15 as the team gets on the field for their first day of on-field work before the Indianapolis Colts game on Sunday. 615-737-1045 is the number that you call, particularly right now, because we have your chance to win 4 tickets to MTSU UTSA. But first, we have to tell you how to win them. You win them by giving us the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
What the is this?
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real.
It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
Sure is. 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045 is how you tell us what the dumbest thing in sports is this week. There's a lot to pick from, especially with football season being back and in full effect. I think the first place that we have to start, though, for the dumbest thing in sports is what we've talked about, I think, several times. The feeling of being uncomfortable that Russell Wilson generally gives off. Now, not just to the Broncos squeaking by a bad San Francisco 49ers team 11-10 on Sunday Night Football. Not only does Russell Wilson have the Let's Ride commercials and is hated by the entire city of Seattle, for whom he won a Super Bowl, but he's doing things to continue to kind of lean into the cringy parts of Russell Wilson. It's not ideal. I'm going to tell you why the dumbest thing in sports this week is Russell Wilson right after I tell you that the dumbest thing in sports this week is presented by Painter Ready Murfreesboro, a faith-based company. Their mission is to provide the highest quality painting services available. They have won the Ruthie's Award in 2019, 2020, and 21 for the best residential and commercial painting company. They offer a complete range of services, all of which meet the highest industry standards. They utilize the best products from suppliers such as Sherwin-Williams and Benjamin Moore and employ only the finest of tradesmen. Call for a quote, 615-PAINTER or www.painterreadymurfreesboro.com. Have you seen the Russell Wilson Subway commercial? Lucas is nodding his head in agreement as he fields your phone calls. So I got to say, outright, I got biases because Russell Wilson is somebody that typically makes me cringe. So I'm not necessarily a part of his fan club. I like the way he plays when they're down, when they're trailing, when they're desperate, because Russell Wilson can still make some incredible throws from time to time. Lucas, this commercial is on PFT Commenter's Twitter account from yesterday. I honestly think it's worth playing part of it because it's not just the way that he looks at the camera while he reads this sandwich monologue. It is just generally Russell Wilson's persona that I think people need to hear.
Right, and I'm going to play you the version that has been edited with the Batman Joker music behind it.
Okay, very good. On the highest level of production.
Hey, you want to split this Subway sandwich? It is my signature sandwich. It's called the Danger Witch, and it's dangerously good. Be careful, though. It's spicy. You ever done anything dangerous? That is dangerous. I've done something like that, too. I won't tell anybody. Listen, one time... Never mind. That's too dangerous. Anyways, my Danger Witch, it's only in the vault. That's our little secret.
The music makes it 10 times better. Although, honestly, I think it's more cringy without the music. But maybe it's just a dude chewing on a sandwich and trying to. Does anybody less give off dangerous than Danger Russ Wilson?
No.
Come on. That's my dumbest thing in sports this week.
So you might have heard David Ubben with the Morning Guys talking about this earlier today. He wrote a great column on it. But my dumbest thing in sports this week is ESPN cutting into the Clemson-Wake Forest game to show an Aaron Judge at bat as he continues to try and get to 61 single-season home runs and tie Roger Maris for the Yankees record, would be the AL record, and would be 7th all-time for the Major League record. 7th. This is not Aaron Judge trying to break the Major League Baseball record for single-season home runs. It is him trying to tie for 7th all-time. And they cut into the Clemson-Wake Forest game, which was a 51-45 final in double overtime, an electric shootout win for Clemson.
That mattered, by the way. That mattered consequently.
Critical ACC game where not a single Clemson fan, not a single Wake Forest fan in that moment gives a damn about Aaron Judge tying a Yankees record for single-season home runs. I don't give a damn. Most college football fans in the Southeast don't give a damn. And the people watching that football game sure as hell do not care about an Aaron Judge at-bat. So they go split screen. They put the Clemson-Wake Forest game on the left, the Aaron Judge at-bat on the right, with the audio coming from the baseball game. So fans of Clemson or Wake Forest are having to watch their game on half a screen on mute. They missed an entire Wake Forest possession.
While listening to Michael K on the call, which, by the way, love Michael K, but like not now, Michael.
They missed a whole touchdown drive. What are we doing, ESPN?
To watch Aaron Judge ground out.
It was so stupid. It was so stupid.
Hey, man, yes, you are correct. And soon ESPN is going to, our history with baseball is well documented as a show, okay? Like, we understand that there are some disconnects between some of you and us as far as the importance of the sport of baseball. There was a time in America in the 80s and 90s where live look-ins of baseball games were legitimately important things, things that people cared about. Like, baseball has lost such a tremendous amount of clout and momentum that now if you try and go split screen with something that is historic by an incredibly famous franchise that has fans nationwide, you are going to be dragged. You are going to be dragged because baseball does not matter that way. Get him off my screen. It's football season.
I don't care if Aaron Judge gets to 62 or 63 or 64 home runs. I don't care if he breaks the single season record. I really don't care.
There are people who do, but they are not, they are not the ones also sitting on their couch from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. the next morning watching college football.
Exactly. And the people sitting on their couch chewing their fingernails over a shootout game against Wake Forest or against Clemson, depending on what fan base you're part of, do not care what Aaron Judge is doing on his quest to tie a 7th all-time MLB record.
If I'm Amazon or Apple TV, I'm saying, hey, we'll never do a live look-in ever.
No.
when they're bidding for sports rights.
Do away with live look-ins. We can make it happen. We'll pull it up on our phones if
we
we
all
need
have the internet. If it happens, we'll see it on Twitter. I don't got to see it live. This has honestly been a part of the reason why sports consumption is just eroded, because people don't care about sports that way, like that, quite that way anymore. There's still obviously incredibly passionate sports fans, but as you get through younger generations, people aren't that kind of attached. They'll just catch it on TikTok or Twitter. 615-737-1045. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? Let's start with Rick in Culleoka.
Hey, good morning, Buck. Great show. Listen to you daily.
Thank you.
May not be necessarily the dumbest, but it falls way short of being smart. Florida's coach electing to go for the two-point conversions, which, of course, there at the end cost them a shot at a tying field goal versus having to throw the Hail Mary. And let me finish it with saying I'm so glad he did, being a Tennessee fan. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for the call, Rick. There was some questionable decisions being made there. What do you feel that you learned from that game about those two coaches?
Well, I think Florida fans would come away feeling positive about what they did in Neyland Stadium. I don't know. I don't know that we didn't really learn anything, I don't think, about Josh Heupel. I mean, they just played to their full potential, I think, on offense.
Well, I think anything that would help you survive that game was going to cause a tremendous amount of stress one way or the other. We'll continue to take your calls on the dumbest thing in sports for the opportunity to win 4 tickets to MTSU's game this Friday in Murfreesboro against UTSA for Kevin Byard's jersey retirement night. That's coming up next.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Damn it, Lucas, I tell you this all the time. When you say things into the microphone, we're going to get heat for it. And I'm going to get heat for it. Even if they come out of your mouth. You got people on YouTube stirred up about your baseball slander. You got people tweeting me about your baseball slander. What are you doing?
I'm not slandering the sport of baseball.
People hear what they want to hear.
There is no argument that can prove me wrong here. Like, not one. The argument is Clemson and Wake Forest fans don't give a damn about Aaron Judge and his single-season record, which isn't even a record,
No,
by
it's
the
like
way.
an American League record. Like, I don't care about the American League record.
Who's ever cared about an AFC records in the past, right? Like, nobody cares.
The Colts, AFC runner-up banner. It's like the same thing.
The point of it is that Clemson and Wake Forest fans don't care. They care more about the game with their teams than they do about Aaron Judge. And if they didn't, they'd be watching Aaron Judge. That is a fact. That is my point. And if you're going to look at me and tell me that's wrong, then I got nothing for you. I was just so angered by this.
You know what? You know what's going to help all the positive feedback that we're getting on this? You having a more condescending tone. That's going to help tremendously. Thank you for all of your great work.
When I'm supposed to be the one balancing it out.
You're the one who's supposed to back me. You're supposed to be the one who sounds likable. It's a bit. I mean, it's also not a bit. This is just generally our personalities. But it's hard for me to be the overly condescending one if you are also being super condescending. It's just going to make people hate us.
Russell in the YouTube chat says 61 home runs is viewed as the true home run record by most fans. So it's baseball history, too, because I guess all the guys in front of him were juicing at that time. Because it's Barry Bonds at the top and Mark McGwire. I don't care about baseball.
So it's even worse. It's the super purists one.
Yeah. Y'all go figure that out on your own. I don't care. Don't let it interrupt our college football game. That matters way more to us than that does to us.
Again, I'm waiting the avalanche of replies that await me when I open up my phone next because you're yelling at people over the air. 615-737-1045. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? You give us a good one, we'll send you to MTSU this Friday. How about Eric in Nashville next?
Hey, guys, I'm going to leave that last one alone. You know, I told you call screen. I'm not going to be able to go to game Friday so you can give it to somebody else, but I do have a dumbest thing in sports this week. I just want to participate.
Hit me with it.
And that is the Los Angeles Chargers leaving Justin Herbert in a football game late in the fourth quarter down 38-10 with bad ribs.
Yeah.
That makes absolutely no sense at all. I mean, they're already beset with injuries. I heard their starting center was hurt. They had another lineman hurt. You had one of your best wide receivers hurt, and the defensive back hurt. Maybe I get it that you start him or something like that. Maybe they feel like they had to do it, and he's that competitor who wants to go. But when the game's out of hand like it is, you got to get him out of there. I mean, this is your franchise quarterback, and it's the rest of the season. There's no need for him to be in the game down 18 points. It's already over. Sit him down. I mean, it's just ridiculous. That's all I got to say, guys. Y'all take care and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks for the call. Not only did Eric deliver that on time, he delivered it with great energy, great effort, and compelling points because your boy Brandon Staley, it has caused the rare week 3 locker room derisions about how poorly this is going so far.
Hard to bounce back from that.
And you know what's going to help? Injuries. Injuries are going to help. Rashawn Slater, their stud left tackle, is out for the season. They are calling Joey Bosa week to week at this point with a groin injury. And we brought this up with Mike Keith, like Titans fans are looking at injuries and saying, oh, why again are we the most injured team in all of football? Look around. Everybody is literally limping across the first month of the season, just physically dragging themselves like the Walking Dead to October.
And Coach Mack always says, nobody else cares about your injury.
Nobody cares. Not a single person, because everybody's got them. But it's a really good one. I mean, at the risk of saying that they're chargering, it's like early Dabo Swinney days with Clemsoning. The Chargers have a much, much longer history of this. Incredible expectations. I told you if I was in the business of making Super Bowl picks, I'd have looked at the Chargers and said that roster's damn good. I like their coach's general philosophy, even if I think he's a little too married to it. I would have taken the Chargers out of the AFC. But the chargering exists in meaningful ways. 615-737-1045. How about Callie Robb in Nashville up next? Hello, Rob.
Buck, are you there?
I am here. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Buck.
Okay.
Buck, the most dumbest thing in sports this week is you and Lucas.
See, I told you, Lucas.
Keep hating on baseball, okay? Baseball is the most purest, it's the most American sport we got. Lucas, do your statistical data. See how many fans watch baseball this year and last year compared to the fans who watch football, okay? You could put college and professional football sports together, and the attendance will not surpass baseball, okay?
The attendance? No, Rob.
There's
The attendance?
182 games,
Rob, I was at a game where there was 102,000 people. I look around at these baseball games. That's objectively wrong.
Okay, now you want to go with statistical data.
You're the one who said statistical data. Rob, I had nothing to do with the attendance. You are alleging that attendance at football games is worse than baseball games. Stop.
Yes, of course it is. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're talking about popular sports. The attendance should it should over exceed baseball, but it doesn't. And Buck, one other thing.
It does by a lot. No, Rob, I'm sorry. I don't want one other thing. Get at Rob.
We're talking about 182 games in a season compared to 12 at the college football level and 17 at the NFL level. Sure, if you want to add up every single fan that walks into a baseball stadium over the course of a baseball season, is it going to be more than a football season? Yeah, because there's 182 games. Take a look at these TV contracts, Rob. Is ESPN paying tens and hundreds of millions of dollars
for the Yankees? The logic cannot be. Well, they are paying a tremendous amount of money for the Derek Jeter useless documentary that I didn't see. I didn't see any good reviews of that at all. I don't know how many people actually watched that, and he's like the biggest thing. The whole thing about Derek Jeter is he goes on there and says, yeah, I was intentionally uninteresting. Okay, then sell me 6 more episodes of just how historically uninteresting you were as a personality, despite your greatness and the greatness of those Yankees runs. I just... The argument being, I love that. That may be the dumbest thing in sports this week. We should give it to Rob just for bringing a dumb thing to the table that way. That the attendance of a baseball season is equivalent to a football season with 162 games versus 17.
I said 182. It's 162. It doesn't matter.
Did somebody call and yell at you? Okay, now you're not helping. See, we've done too much baseball. Our information starts to fray because we don't pay attention. 182? What are you doing? Help me help you. Donnie in Gallatin is next.
Yes, first-time caller. I love your show.
Thanks, Donnie.
Listen to you guys every day.
I appreciate that.
My dumbest thing in sports is, I think I got my facts right, Kevin Lewan has not played a whole full season since 2017. Is that correct?
Taylor Lewan did play a full season in 2000. Let me give you, if you'll stay with me, make your point, and I'll get the numbers for you while I pull up his Pro Football Reference. He has not played a full season since, 2017. He missed 1 game in 18, but still made the Pro Bowl.
I say get rid of him. That's my dumbest thing in sports. Keeping somebody like this is helping us absolutely zero.
Well, yeah.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate the call. 615-737-1045. I mean, they're going to. They're going to move on from Taylor, I think it's just a matter of, they tried to ride it out with a dude who they felt like was going to be able to rebound, and his knee fell apart again, and they're probably going to cut him because they'll save almost $15 million next season. I don't think it's something that you got to think about. Now, again, you don't have to be a fan of Lewan, and he's correct in saying that Taylor's only played 2 16-game seasons in his career. He missed 1 game in 15 as a full-time starter. He missed 1 game in 18 as a full-time starter. 4 games missed in 2019. Obviously, the ACL tear in 2020 that cost him 11 games, 13 games in 2021, coming off the ACL repair, and then a game and 1 offensive snap. So I don't think it's, they're not going to cut him now. They're going to wait till the end of the season because what's the point? You don't get the cap relief now. But I get your point. 615-737-1045. Blake in Clarksville is next.
How's it going, y'all? It's my first time calling. I listen to y'all every day. Learn a lot from y'all. The dumbest thing in sports to me this week, by far, is the Miami Hurricanes losing to MTSU.
Oof.
Now, what I've been hearing here talking about Taylor Lewan and us keeping him, whatever, man, he's done a lot for the Titans. I hope, he's had a lot of injuries, whatever. And the other guy talking about the attendance record, I don't even know why he's comparing 182 games to 12 games in college football. That's just crazy to me. But thank you. That's what I got for us. The Miami Hurricanes losing to MTSU.
Thanks for the call,
have a great rest of the day.
We absolutely will. We appreciate the call. 615-737-1045. The Hurricanes, and you see what's happening with Mario Cristobal now? Like, people are legitimately questioning all the money that they spent on Mario Cristobal, and they were expecting to make significant gains in things like season tickets and attendance when Tyler Van Dyke is out here saying, yeah, I like playing on the road better because there's actually college atmospheres on the road. Playing at Florida State is cool because you can see what it's supposed to look like. And Miami plays their games probably an hour drive away from campus in traffic on Saturdays in the Orange Bowl, or it's not the Orange Bowl anymore, Hard Rock Stadium, whatever the Dolphin Stadium is called. So it's not quite the same thing. So MTSU not only went up there, got the bag, what is it, $1.6 million, $1.5 million that they were paid, plus $40,000 in expenses to go down to Miami, get a free trip to South Beach, and just whoop up on Mario Cristobal, a certified tough guy, and a alleged first-round pick at quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke. He got benched, did not handle it well at all. If NFL scouts are still watching deep into the fourth quarter of that game or deep into the second half of that game when they pull him and they see him throwing a little bit of a hissy on the sideline, that's going to be something that's noted as everything else kind of spirals on him. Matt in Mount Juliet is next.
Hey, guys. My dumbest take has to be Rob. I didn't have a take at all. But, when I heard that call, it blasted me. Like, holy crap. So, yeah, that's the dumbest take in sports I've ever heard. To bring about talking about attendance rates and 162. Everybody's throwing out 182. It's 162, by the way, in baseball.
Thank you, Lucas. Great job by you.
Anyway, that there's nothing that gets dumber than that call right there. There's no comparison. I mean, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Football, like you said, I was there too in Neyland. We got 102,000 people around there. Every Saturday, all these stadiums filled up, Michigan, everybody else, all kinds of places, pumped to the max. And you're talking about some games. I see some games with, like, talk about the Washington Nationals or Cincinnati Reds. It's like you can't even give it away. You can't even give a ticket away. There's like 50 people in a damn stand, you know? And this guy's going to call in talking about, baseball's attendance and this and that. That's the dumbest take in sports history.
Thanks very much for the call, Matt. Matt in Mount Juliet with no chill for Callie Robb. Listen, I appreciate the passion of baseball fans. I really do. Because, like, if you're committed enough to 162, say it with me, Lucas, 162.
162.
You're a jerk. If you're committed to anything for 162 of anything, you clearly love it. And we're not bashing you for it. We're not trying to, I don't know. Because I always try to be, I don't want to be dismissive about baseball just because it's not for me. Like, that's not what I'm trying to accomplish at all. But when it does interfere in the thing that I am interested in, and the vast majority of the country is interested in, over Aaron Judge specifically, and a home run record that is not even the actual current home run record, but the purest home run record that everybody is going to freak out about, the non-steroid. Do you know what? So Terry McCormick, we've talked about this before. Terry listens to the show, and we're grateful for Terry at TitansInsider.com. But he got upset with me on your behalf because you didn't mention Aaron Judge tying it in your update a couple of days ago. And so I brought this to your attention, and you basically said when he breaks the record, you're not even gonna include it in the update either. You're just out here trying to actively piss off baseball
When he breaks
fans.
what record? The 7th all-time MLB record? Nah, I'm good. I'm good. And again, I'm with you that I'm not trying to just attack baseball and baseball
That's
fans.
not true. You just attacked them.
I know, because I'm getting carried away.
You just attacked them.
Because I'm getting carried away.
No, you can't be attack on the front end and then say, I'm not trying to attack baseball fans.
The point of it is, I was offended for my college football fan brethren of Clemson and Wake Forest fans. And I have no allegiance towards either of those schools, but I just think about what I would be going through in a moment like that.
If they did that during a Tennessee game?
Right.
If they did that during Tennessee, Florida, what do you think would have happened?
Well, I mean, Titans fans, put yourself in a spot where you're watching Titans Colts on Sunday. You're watching Titans Colts, and it's the fourth quarter, and it's a one-possession game, and they cut into it, and they give you a split screen of an Aaron Judge at bat so he can tie the 7th all-time MLB record for home runs in a season, and they mute your game, and you miss a whole scoring drive. You'd be throwing stuff at the wall.
There's not so many of those scoring drives. You want to make sure you get all the scoring drives in.
It is unfathomable that somebody could think that's a good idea.
Breathe.
I think most people agree with me.
Yeah, they do. You're just yelling at the one person that doesn't. You're beating up on the easy guy. Oh, God. John in Murfreesboro next.
What's up, Buck? What's up, Lucas? All right, dumbest thing in sports this week is not just the NCAA for their embarrassment by getting their hind parts handed to them by the University of Memphis, but also the national college basketball writers that seem to be wringing their hands at saying, how can the NCAA let Memphis get away with this? How are we going to stand for this? How is this okay when they sweep Kentucky under the rug, when they sweep Duke under the rug, when they sweep North Carolina and Kansas and Arizona and everybody else under the rug?
I think if it wasn't, I think if it wasn't for things like Penny's press conference, you remember Penny's press conference where he's just yelling at the media about stuff? And maybe that shouldn't impact coverage. It's things like, T.O. not getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame because people didn't like him. People didn't vote for him. And so bleep you, T.O. You got us on the front end. We'll get you on the back end because we control your fate. I think there's a little bit of that with Memphis, particularly with Penny. One more for the dumbest thing in sports this week. Let's go to Tyler in Lebanon. Tyler, you got us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, bud.
So I'm just going to lead with Callie Robb as a coworker of mine.
Okay.
And not only is he the dumbest thing in sports for the incoherent babble he just put on the radio, but every week I come into work on a Monday and he tells me the NFL is the National Fix League.
So you're saying that Rob has his own biases. There are biases that we have against baseball. Rob has biases against football.
I had to question, if it was fixed, what the hell did we just watch Sunday night that set football back 40 years?
Yeah, if they were going to fix it to make it better, not 11-10.
Is this going to be the first time? Because I'm thinking Rob is the leader for physically being the dumbest thing in sports this week.
I think we should give him the tickets, but just by nature of setting the precedent for everybody else, because the phone line's lit up after Rob.
You could give us the dumbest thing in sports this week, or you could be the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Has that ever happened?
Counts. No, it still counts.
Okay. I like that. 615-737-1045. Why don't you give the tickets to Rob? We could get more calls if you like. Mike Vrabel's going to speak at noon today, 12:15 today, rather, to get into the Colts and the Titans' preparations for them. We'll also talk about some moves that the Titans made on Tuesday at a couple of critical roster spots. That's next. Rob got everybody fired up. Did he want the tickets, Lucas?
Rob is headed to the MTSU game on Friday.
All right. Congratulations to Cali Rob. Starting a fight.
I will say he was shocked.
That he won?
He was like, wait, I got
him? Hey, we don't discriminate. You can tell us that we're the dumbest thing in sports any week if you like to. If you're right, we'll give the tickets to you.
Yeah, it's not about whether or not we agree.
Absolutely not. So what do we agree upon for the Tennessee Titans on Sunday? Well, a couple of different transactions that took place yesterday in particular. So they signed tackle LaRaven Clark from the Philadelphia Eagles practice squad. They released the outside linebacker Jerry Green that they had signed on their practice squad, and they signed Joe Schobert, the linebacker, veteran linebacker, who played a lot of football for the Browns and the Jags, maybe the Jags and the Browns in that order. Either way. So what does that mean? Well, one, you know that you needed additional tackle help. LaRaven Clark has played a lot across the course of a couple of years. He was, I remember, the last time I remember hearing LaRaven Clark's name, it was in either 2020 or it would have been 2020 because Phillip Rivers was the quarterback, I think, for just that 2020 Colts season. Anthony Costanzo got hurt. LaRaven Clark went in. Harold Landry had himself a game against LaRaven Clark en route to a big Titans victory. Yes, because that was the Isaiah Wilson game, the one that he was physically out there for. 1 snap of victory formation, 3 snaps of victory formation, 1 snap of him getting put on his butt on the field goal unit. So, LaRaven Clark comes in because you know that Taylor Lewan is out indefinitely. Joe Schobert means that Zach Cunningham may be a little more serious than I think the initial fears were, dealing with a wrist issue. Your inside linebacker depth, already super thin. Nobody cares about your injuries. Everybody's got injuries. Titans have a lot of injuries in particular. So Joe Schobert is going to have to come in on a short week, get ready, and get back at it. Now, it'll be curious to see what Mike Vrabel has to say about Zach Cunningham today. I would imagine that Mike is not going to make any kind of official determination on Wednesday when he does not have to rule guys out. I mean, he really doesn't have to rule guys out on Friday, but he can rule guys out after Friday's practice. So as you look at the couple of spots where the Titans may be missing some numbers, inside linebacker and offensive line, of which we already knew. Now, the question becomes, when Mike Vrabel meets with the media in just about 15 to 20 minutes, Bud Dupree and Ola Adeni, what is their status? A hip issue for Bud, a neck injury that's been lingering for Ola. You need pass rush desperately to be able to affect Matt Ryan. And that is something that, even though Rashad Weaver and Jeff Simmons and Danico Autry, frankly, I thought made a couple of nice plays in that game against the Raiders, it wasn't enough. They need more pressure to be able to make this thing happen. Now, before we do the Mike Vrabel press conference, Lucas, I don't know if you're in the middle of something, but I want this sound of a story that News Channel 5 ran last week about a Titans fan. Have you ever ventured into Titans Facebook? Anybody within the sound of my voice? You think Twitter's bad? It's what I imagine Reddit to be like. I've never actually gone down the rabbit hole that is Reddit that way, other than when Brian Harsin was accused of having an affair by a message board. But it's what I imagine Reddit to be, like the deepest, darkest circles of the internet. So, individual named Tyrekus is Titans Facebook famous. So much so that he has started a petition that News Channel 5 decided was worth covering.
Fired. He need to be going first.
Tyrekus Jones feels so confident that offensive coordinator Todd Downing needs a pink slip.
I think it's his fault, and I'm going to continue to think it's his fault.
He's created his own online petition. At last check, it's just shy of 1,200 signatures.
Our offense was top 5. All we did was promote Todd Downing, and we went to 31st. So now we the caboose? Nah.
Despite Tyrekus feeling the two-tone blues,
we still going to support him, though, no matter what.
There's nothing the team
coordinator fired. He need to be going first.
Start over again?
I think so. But I love the stance of I'm going to continue to think he should be fired. Like, nothing that could happen will change my mind.
I mean, there are people out here starting petitions. It's not funny for Todd. I'm sure Todd's miserable about all this because he's just trying to do his job. And frankly, as we've discussed at great length, we've had very many smart football people tell you, yeah, it's not necessarily what they're doing from a play calling standpoint, even if a few of them are just kind of like head scratchers. The petition out there on the internet with nearly 1,200 signatures, and that was like last weekend that story aired courtesy of News Channel 5, where they're interviewing Titans fans because they're losing their minds on the internet about one specific thing. Mike Vrabel will be at the podium. We'll hear the head coach's press conference as the Titans take the field for the Indianapolis Colts, or preparations for the Indianapolis Colts, coming up next.
It is 11:59. Good morning from the Superbook.com Sportsbook. I'm Lucas Panzica. Mike Vrabel speaking to the media as the Titans officially turn their attention to the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. Back on the practice field today at St. Thomas Sports Park, and we go live to the Titans head coach in just a few minutes here on the Buck Rising Show. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 3 gets us started with Mike Vrabel's press conference. The head coach is currently live at St. Thomas Sports Park. We'll take you out there right now.
We had some runs that were really close. We've had some really good official runs. Had one that got us down to the 1 yard line. We broke through. We've gotten on the safety a couple times. So confident that if we can continue to do some things that we were doing, the other day, that'll be a challenge. This is a great defense, fast. They run the football. It hasn't been easy to run the football on them. So, we'll have to it'll be great this week.
You mentioned how good of a defense it is. Colts coming in with third best rush defense. You mentioned they're fast up front. What are some of the challenges they bring?
Well, they're athletic. I mean, they have a very consistent scheme. I think that they don't really. It's not like they're trying to trick you. They play a bunch of guys up front. Buckner and Stewart are the leaders in there that. They can move, they can stay in their gap, they can, play with their hands. They do a lot of different things. The edge guys are active and fast and in a tough matchup. And then, just really inside, the linebackers are fast. They tackle. It's gonna be critical that we try to get on them. If you don't put a hat on them, they'll be there and most likely trying to hammer the football out.
What makes Taylor you face a lot of good running back? What makes Taylor unique?
Well, speed, breakaway speed, toughness, but also patience to dip in and kind of burst out. We're all at the point of attack. We're going to have a great wall. Can't give him a whole lot of seams, and tackling him one-on-one is not where you want to be all afternoon.
See, as close a challenge as there is to like Derrick Henry right now. Like you get a sense of what other teams deal with against you this week?
Well, I mean, I don't really like to get into comparisons. They're a different type of back. They have a obviously different running style, but that's the challenge this week is what they'll try to do and how they've used him in the different schemes, whether it's under center in the gun, inside zone, outside zone, gap scheme. So there's a lot of different things that they present.
What's your advice kind of when your DBs are going up against a guy like Pittman, and those jump balls are coming their way? What's the kind of the best strategy there?
Well, I think you have to stay patient. First is that you stay patient and not start, grabbing. Trying to make sure that you're in phase and then also challenge and try to play the football and go up through the pocket.
Nico's ability to slide out to the edge helped you to offset some of the depth issues you've had with injuries at outside linebacker?
Well, his versatility and really just his attitude and presence here since he's been with us has been outstanding. It's a player that we've always had a lot of respect for. Love coaching him, love watching him compete and help him. He's factored for us, and he can move inside, do a nice job on the edge. So, that's a great skill set to be able to do both of it for us.
What's your assessment of where Ryan is with this group of receivers at this point?
We've had some favorable plays. We've had some passes that we'd like to have back. We'll keep improving and trying to get better. But I think that it's there were some really nice things that we did the other day. Unfortunately, we threw the interception. Ryan threw the interception, but there were some X plays in there. There were some times where we had to pick up some big third down conversions, and so we're just looking for consistency. We're looking for great quarterback play and making sure that Ryan's executing our offense, and the guys are helping them out and being where they need to be.
What are your thoughts on the way Jelani Woods emerged, especially as a red zone target? I know he was a guy that you guys had some interest in coming up.
Well, I think that as you look at that last statement there, Teron, we have interest in all of them. You know, we look at all the players, tall, long, athletic. You know, just a match up in the red zone that's difficult. You know, the quarterback can put it up there and they can, try to make a play. So he made a huge play the other day. You know, very impressive play, great timing. Matt put it where it needed to be, and again, it just the catch radius is a lot bigger when you're looking at a guy that size.
Some of the factors regarding
tackles numbers are pretty good right now. Is that a good thing, or does he need to break up a few more passes along the way?
He's gotten a lot of the, you look at some of those, and again, those can be misleading. I think I hear where you're trying to get to with as far as like the catch tackle, and the guy just keeps throwing it. It hasn't been that. We've played some zone with him in there, and in the nickel and first and second down. Nickel, that player is a glorified linebacker, and so. Every DB and everybody that we have cover needs to try to cover better. But I would say that his production in there has come from, triggering in a run game, or whether it's a screen or a vice tackle, they catch it in front of you. So, we'll keep working with Roger and his versatility.
What's you like about Schobert? I know he's only on the practice squad, but what's a challenge for a guy like that who hasn't had a full camp or weeks of practice as well?
He's played a lot of football. He's played a lot of football inside linebacker. He's an instinctive player, and we'll see where he is at the end of the week and how he can help us, just like everybody else that we asked to, prepare like they're going to be a starter this week.
Two more guys just got here, Mario Edwards and Raven Clark. What do you like about those guys, and how important is them to get up to speed as quickly as possible?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, but LaRaven is somebody that again has played some football. That's kind of what you target at this point in time. In the season, with guys that have been, have played, and maybe in different systems. So he's working hard with the coaches. Was in here the last couple of days since we signed him. Mario's played, been productive, has some versatility. So, we'll see if he can help us.
Beyond just blocking better, has there been any other factors that have contributed to the pass protection being better? Is Ryan getting the ball out quicker, or is he throwing it away when he knows there's obviously nothing there? Are there some of those things coming into play?
We're just trying to do the best each and every week. We've played some pretty good players. So just doing different things in protection and with the route that we have, knowing that you don't have all day when, we played some of the guys that we've played.
Mike, what would it mean to be able to get to 500 after the start to this season?
I think that's just all you're looking for is just try to get, back to the surface. It's obviously the next week. It's a challenge. It's on the road, first division game. So, it's going to be a lot of work this week. We're going to have to put as much into it as we ever have. I think that the guys are excited, for the challenge and making sure that, we understand who these guys are, have a lot of respect for this organization, for this team. These have been, battles, each and every year. Each and every game, twice a year. So, that preparation has already begun. Thanks.
That's Mike Vrabel meeting with the media ahead of their first day of practice. By the way, for what it's worth, Rashad Weaver is going to be on the radio show tomorrow at 11:15. So we'll talk to the Titans, I guess, primary pass rusher for the time being, and seeing how he's handled basically this expanded workload that he's got. So a lot of information about the Colts there from Mike. Jelani Woods is somebody who has emerged, or did last week emerge for them as a player, as a red zone threat. He's certainly a hugely talented, physically gifted individual to go alongside with Mo Alley Cox, and what the Colts are going to do. The Colts basically play the same way that the Titans want to play, same way that the Browns want to play. They are trying to build through the offensive line. They think they have done that. They have paid them as such. It hasn't materialized so far this season. Jonathan Taylor, though, is somebody who's going to get volume, and they're going to have tight ends, particularly in 2 tight end sets, who are going to operate as not just blockers in their running game, but as red zone threats, big body guys who can just go up in there, post up, make a play over a defensive back that's not half their size, but certainly feels like that sometimes. So with what the Titans have currently, there's a couple of different things that I'm looking for today on the practice field. I'm going to have time to make it out to practice because it's not starting until 1:20. And then but what I want to do next is I want to go through the thing you think is the Titans' best advantage against the Colts. 615-737-1045 is how you can get in on the conversation. What you think the Titans' best advantage over Indianapolis is. We'll get into that coming up next, and I'll tell you as well what I'm looking for in the first day of on-field work. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Ryan Tannehill is at the podium. Let's go live to St. Thomas Sports Park.
It's opening up in games and being able to get him the ball.
With Woods, does it shorten the learning curve significantly when it's veteran to veteran, when a new guy comes in?
It definitely shortens it. Some things just don't. It's a quick conversation as opposed to having to introduce something. He's already seen it before, heard it before. We're just getting on the same page. Some things I don't even have to tell him. He just already knows and does it. So, yeah, having that veteran presence in that room, that veteran leadership there, and just as far as getting on the same page with me, he's done a great job so far, and it's showing.
How do you like the guys to come back to you and tell you they're open on a play when you may not have gone to them? Like, how has that type of conversation gone for you guys so far this season?
Oh, it's good. I mean, it's going to happen, right? You're not going to see every open guy every time. You're kind of going through your reads. Safeties may dictate it, coverage may dictate it, or it could just be a play dictated. So you're not going to see the full field every single play, and occasionally, guys going to win on the backside or something. So just having that dialogue of, okay, how they're playing me on the backside, what this corner's doing me, okay, in this coverage, I'm getting this outside leverage. I think we have something here on the inside. Whatever the case may be, that dialogue has been good, and it's going to be critical as we move forward throughout the season to take advantage of some of those situations that arise, throughout a game, and we can make mid-game adjustments.
Ryan, after the start to the season, how nice would it be to be able to get back to 500 going, at the start of October?
Oh, it's huge. We want to go 1-0 this week. That's the goal each and every week, but crucial at this point in the season to go get a win. We got a division opponent on the road in a tough place to play. So, have our hands full, but it's going to be important for us to go out and play well.
Is part of the reason you think, Ryan, there's been so much variety in the receivings and receiving yards this year? Don't necessarily have that dominant number one receiver. Are you more likely to look broadly, I guess, at your options than maybe you were?
Yeah, I mean, I think I try to find a good spot to go with the ball each and every time I get to throw it. Whether that's matchup dependent or play dependent, it all kind of varies depending on what we have going on. But our guys have shown across the board that each of them have different strengths and can get open for me. So have a lot of confidence, no matter what the play call is, that we'll find a good spot to go with the ball.
With getting Derek involved in the pass game on Sunday and with what Hilliard's been able to do, how good is it to know that the check down is not necessarily a give-up play? Yeah.
Anytime you check the ball down to Derek or Dontrell, it's not even close to a give-up play. Both those guys are explosive with the ball in their hands. Derek had some good gains underneath, as well as Dontrell and what he's done, a little bit earlier in the season. So, we're going to try to push the ball downfield and take our shots and give opportunities to our receivers, but not going to force it into a window we shouldn't and drop it down when we need to.
Where's the learning curve kind of coming along for Chig, in your opinion? And, when do you think he might be possibly more involved in the offense?
Yeah, Chig, I think, has done a good job with what we've asked him to do. We'll see. Hopefully, we can get him more involved as the season goes on. But right now, he's jumping into everything we're asking him to do. He's obviously shown he can make some plays for us on special teams and on offense. So, if he can continue to progress, then we want to get him involved and help create another weapon on our offense.
You had a chance to say anything to Taylor, I guess, since he got put on injured reserve?
Yeah, I've been communicating with Taylor, man. It's just tough to see him go down again, for the second time in I guess 3 years. Just really a tough situation with how everything went with him and why he's out and all that. I'll let him get into that. But really just frustrating situation for him primarily and just missing having him around, missing having him, anchoring down that left side for us.
What's it like when Huddle going to be a little bit quieter now the rest of the season?
No doubt it'll be a little bit quieter. Sideline conversations from the O-line department will be a lot less, but definitely going to miss Taylor.
What's it like when a new guy comes in, whether it's Dennis Daly or maybe LaRaven Clark now, and building trust with those guys?
Yeah, you have to trust them from the jump. Dennis kind of got thrown in there after being here just a short period of time. But he came in and he did a good job for us, and I think he's getting kind of settled in a little bit over there on the left side. We'll continue to build that trust even more, and I'm confident in what he's done so far, and that he can continue to do that and be better.
How much of you watching? I know Fort Lauderdale's maybe on the other side of where the hurricane's coming in, but how much of you kind of watch the hurricane coverage for for Florida this week?
Yeah, watching it, over the weekend, just kind of seeing where that thing was going to end up going. Obviously, kind of turned into a big storm there. So, thoughts and prayers go with everyone there on the west coast of Florida. Really hope that everyone can remain safe and it's not too bad. As far as the East Coast goes and Fort Lauderdale, it ends up just being, I think, a little bit less than tropical winds and a lot of rain. So, thankful everyone down there is safe, but pray for the people on the West Coast. Thank you.
Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill meeting with the media there earlier today. So, a couple of different things. I don't know how closely you pay attention to snap counts, any of you. Just general question. But I have been surprised by the lack of playing time for Chigakonkwo. Because I really thought coming into this season and kind of seeing how they'd had time spent together, he and Ryan Tannehill, that there would be something more there. Now, also, it appears that I've been deceived by Austin Hooper.
Because
Austin Hooper,
yeah,
he was the guy in training camp. That's the guy who Tannehill throw to. You're not getting Austin Hooper involved very much.
Well, we all know what the targets have looked like for Hooper. They haven't really been there. But what do the snap counts look like when you put them next to Chig?
Oh, well, definitely worse. But like Jeff Swaim is playing considerably more than either of them right now. I mean, Chig was basically just relegated to special teams on Sunday.
And I don't think Tannehill has worked with one individual on this team other than NWI. But of all the newcomers, I wouldn't say he's worked with one more consistently than Hooper, right? Like from the jump, as soon as Hooper landed.
Yeah, no,
they
I
were
mean,
on the
it
field
was
together.
because he got here early. He was one of the early signings. He came in during the voluntary stuff. They were working together all offseason. Both were healthy, so they got plenty of time together. And then, Austin Hooper does not appear to be the kind of fit for this offense that I think most people had. I take Mike at his word when he says Swaim's their best blocker, even if the blocking is terrible. Because Hooper doesn't seem to be able to get it done that way. Snap counts for Chig in this game. Kevin Rader did play, the fourth tight end on the roster. Chig had 10 offensive snaps and 8 on special teams. Kevin Rader played more than Chig. Kevin Rader played 15 offensive snaps on Sunday against the Raiders. So I don't know what that says about what they're looking for. It kind of goes back and forth with this thing about what did the caller bring up yesterday? William in Vegas, right? The idea that John Robinson is too busy drafting talent and Mike Vrabel is not going to play talent. He's going to play scheme guys, and that John needs to stop drafting talented guys and Mike just get Mike the scheme guys that he needs, which, of course, ignores a couple of different points. One, that's utterly ludicrous. Two, Mike is very involved in the drafting of the players. He doesn't have roster control per se, but he is involved in the conversations, he and the coaching staff, in the lead up to the draft and on draft night. That's not an insignificant part of this. So where is the disconnect happening between guys like Farley, guys like Chig? Are they the same issue? Where are there dissimilarities? It would just be speculation at this point. But that Kevin Rader is playing more than Chigakonkwo in his first, week on the roster, I assume that's a matchup thing. I don't know what he's going to be in there doing other than blocking. Maybe Chig's not a good enough blocker at this point.
I mean, they'll put the ball in his hands. They showed us in week 1.
You think Chig's being punished for Todd Downing's sins? Is that what you're alleging?
No, that's not at all what I'm alleging.
No,
I'm saying it's not an issue of them worrying about what he can do with the ball in his hands.
They're giving it to him on an end around. They're just like, all right, buddy, go get him.
In a critical third down in his first game as a pro. So it's something else.
So I guess, am I reading too much into that? Sorry, I just threw my charger across the room. Am I reading too much into that Chig is not, that Chig is getting less snaps offensively than Kevin Rader? Because that seems like it would be something significant, and yet, they're sitting here telling me, all right, Terrence Mitchell, we just got him on Wednesday. Go get him, bud.
But how often do we do this with rookies? I feel like it's every year with the draft class. The rookie draft class with limited snaps early on in the season, and then Vrabel's fielding questions about slow-playing guys early in the year when they're rookies. Even Treylon Burks' snap count has gone up, right? I mean, has his snap count increased?
He played 40 snaps. He played 40 snaps.
That's from week 2.
Yeah, that's up
which
from
is up from week
27. Yeah. So they're playing more.
So this isn't unusual.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the question is it right? Like, is it right to get Kevin Rader out there early and Terrence Mitchell out there early because you trust them more to not put you in a position to, like, misexecute a play, you know? Because Kevin Rader and Terrence Mitchell know offensive and defensive plays. They just got to learn the terminology throughout the course of the week for the Titans as opposed to the Patriots and wherever Kevin Rader came from. So I guess because I'm posing the question based on the questions that are posed to me. The thing I see a lot in my mentions is the Titans slow play their rookies. I don't know that that's accurate because NPF is playing. Roger McCreary is playing. Maybe they're playing because they absolutely have to and also happen to be rookies. But I think it's looking for a trend that may not actually exist.
I'd be curious to go back and look at A.J. Brown's snap counts his rookie year.
I could find that, but it would take me and probably a little while.
It might not be worth to go dig up right now.
I don't think
but
so.
I'm curious.
It is some. I mean, maybe I could find that and just go look at Pro Football Reference real quick.
Is Kyle Phillips' early impact on this offense not a little bit of an anomaly when it comes to rookies in the John Robinson, Mike Vrabel era?
No, Corey Davis and Taywan Taylor had to play right away, but that was Malarkey as the coach that drafted them. Adoree had to play right away, but they were terrible. Like, they were talentless. Now you're dealing with a much different situation. AJ ended up playing a lot. Individual game logs I can go through from the 2019 season. AJ, let's see, it does not. Okay, percentage of snaps. Well, that can't be right. It's saying, 25. Yeah. Oh, my God, it's the exact same numbers.
As what? Burks?
Traylon. 25, 27, and 39. Traylon had 40 on Sunday. You're bleeping kidding me.
And then week 4 was A.J. Brown's basically breakout game, the game in Atlanta, right?
Right. So he played 26 snaps against Atlanta, and the next week that was the first time that he had over 50% of the snaps on offense. A.J. Brown did. That's not insignificant.
So what we're saying is 3 touchdowns incoming from Traylon Burks this week.
Week 4, that's when Nate Davis had to go in. Jeff, I know, was an ACL thing. And later, I think he didn't play until the week 7 against the Chargers. But yeah, that's pretty funny. 25, 27, and then 39. One less than Traylon this week.
And ironically, A.J. Brown had more targets in weeks 1, 2, and 3 of his rookie year than he did in week 4 when he had 3 targets, 3 catches, but for 94 yards.
Yeah, because
he 2 touchdowns.
I think Corey went over 100 in that game, and A.J. got close, and it was the last salvageable version of Mariota that we saw.
A.J. had 100 yards receiving in that opener when they went down and beat Cleveland 43-13. So
he had a big catch. He had a big catch to set up a touchdown.
Yeah. So he was a very early impact, but still, the fact that the target or the snap counts are parallel to each other is very interesting.
Mark Jones, our certified biggest homer in the history of the show, writes on YouTube, less drops for Burks, I bet. I don't have drops. I have targets and I have receptions. Relax over there. Chuck in Clarksville is next.
Hey, guys. Whoever he's got in there in each situation, they practice all week on that scheme, on those players being there. I don't see them plugging and playing and saying, oh, Braden, you come out, and Jig, you go in on this one. And so whatever it is, it's a planned situation. So the only thing I saw Sunday that, again, one of my biggest complaints is they have a play where Austin Hooper blocked the DN trying to come in and then went out in the flat and caught about 8-10-yard pass, and we never saw it again. And that play, like Derrick Henry over the middle, is open every day.
I appreciate the call, Chuck. Yeah, it does wear on you like coaching cliches after a while when you hear Mike and the players say each week is a different week. But game plan wise, they're right. Like, they are coming up with specific personnel packages. They have personnel packages that they've used previously that are going to have success. They can't use their entire playbook from the last 2 games that they played the Colts, because obviously the Colts will make adjustments. The Colts personnel is different. It just kind of depends. So I don't disagree that. But at some point, the decision has to be made early in the week that, yeah, Kevin Rader and Terrence Mitchell are going to give us a better chance than Chigakonkwo and Caleb Farley in those circumstances. So I guess what is it that they're seeing on the front end that says to them, all right, they're not good enough yet. Let's get some vets in here and let's kind of roll it out. Because that's what Mike said. Mike said you're looking for guys who have played games when you're picking up players at this time of year. Because he would rather an experienced player make, well, I don't know that he would rather them not make errors anyway. But I think if you're rolling the dice that way, they are gambling on the more veteran players to be able to handle themselves in live game reps than they would the rookie or a guy like Caleb Farley who's just doesn't have enough games at corner to be able to help you, I guess, right now. Otherwise, I can't figure out what else it would be. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. So for the Titans, those deployment issues are going to continue to kind of be a part of the conversation. But the secondary issues are, I think, the bigger question marks right now. They have invested, I was reading Tehran's article from earlier this week. They have invested a significant amount of draft capital in the secondary. Rightfully so, right? They had to reboot it after they traded or after they cut Adoree'. Adoree' went and got a big raise from the Giants, ended up playing out well for Adoree' in New York. Difficult to say whether that would have been able to happen here in Tennessee. I think based on how the money was working in that direction, you're good with letting Adoree' go if you know it's going to mean Kevin Byard, Amani Hooker, Christian Fulton, and Roger McCreary still playing in the Titans secondary. So the draft capital that they've invested, even coming into this year, you wouldn't look at the secondary and say, yeah, that's an area of need. But consistently now it has been an area of need because you've had a bunch of injuries. Remember that Elijah Molden has to miss at least one more game. Ugo Amadi, who missed last week as their backup slot corner, his status is TBD. We'll find out more at practice today. They have given up 300-yard passing performances in back-to-back weeks, and Daniel Jones really pushed them. So is the secondary a product of a poor pass rush? Or is the secondary having issues unto themselves with these little mistakes that allow guys to get behind them, and then all of a sudden you have a busted coverage?
Usually the answer's somewhere in the middle.
Thank you. This is where you choose nuance. You spent all of the second hour screaming at people about baseball. Now you want to have nuanced and reasonable sports talk conversation.
That didn't mean to be that didn't need to be a nuanced take. The baseball thing, that was just black or white. That was a very cut and dry, right and wrong.
Yeah. Okay. So Fulton in the second round in 2020. Caleb Farley was the first round pick in 2021, and Roger McCreary a second round pick in April. You know, Roger McCreary has been really, really good. Like by any metric, by veteran, by rookie, by Pro Bowler, by whatever, Roger McCreary has been a good player in the Titans secondary. I think Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker have also been, living up to the expectations that they set for themselves. So, we talked a lot about the variety of different coverage busts that they have had, and it's not an ideal circumstance. Lucas, though, I think it is important to grab this audio from Jim Wyatt, who just tweeted out a video of the new linebacker, Joe Schobert, added to the practice squad. Zach Cunningham's status kind of still up in the air right now for Sunday's game. I think it's more a contingency plan at this point while they figure out Cunningham's availability, but significant that they did add a player to the roster. If you're looking at the secondary, got needs. Looking at the inside linebackers, outside linebackers, got needs. This was Joe Schobert speaking with Jim Wyatt moments ago.
Yeah, just the opportunity to be back in the building, playing football, doing what I love to be doing. Like a week ago, I was working out and fishing out in Colorado with my wife and family, and but every time the games come around on the weekend, you always feel that something is missing. So you just got to stay ready, and I'm glad for the opportunity. Yeah, I've been preparing just to get my shot and stay ready for whenever somebody needs me to help out a team. So I feel like it's a new scenario for me to be not playing a football game in the fall during football season, but I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be here and take it one day at a time. Yeah, I think good organization, top to bottom, just a winning culture, been winning last few years. Just any opportunity for me to get in somewhere and be able to help a team out, I was going to try to take it and hopefully be able to help. Yeah, I think that's one of the things with my goings around the years. I know somebody everywhere. So there's a couple guys, Terrence Mitchell, Kevin Rader, from other teams I've been on in the past that I've played with and was able to reconnect with, and there's some more. But I know people everywhere.
So That's Joe Schobert, the new Titans practice squad for the time being linebacker. Noctropolis asks on YouTube, is that more basketball in the background? Yeah, the hoop is right in the middle of the locker room for all of us. So the players will just sit there and play horse, basically, while media is making the rounds. Caleb Farley was also approached in the Titans locker room, given what happened last week and the discussions around his status this week. We'll tell you what he had to say coming up next. Welcome back. Wrapping up the show. We'll do some polls in a second. Last call for phone calls, if you got them. Locker room open. Heard from Ryan Tannehill and Mike Vrabel today. How about we hear from Caleb Farley, the embattled second-year corner? Embattled seems maybe a bit dramatic. Is that a fair assessment of Caleb Farley?
This week it might be.
So one defensive snap against the Raiders. Terrence Mitchell getting roasted in his place. I don't know what that says to him. I don't know how he processes that. I'm sure he was asked about it. This audio courtesy of Jim Wyatt of the team's official website.
Just keep working, keep getting better. Not to get down. The opportunity will come. Opportunity will come again, and like I said, it's my job to go in there and execute and take advantage of it. Of course, I'm not gonna sit here and say I don't have room for improvement or nothing like that. So I'm just working to get better and wait for that opportunity to come in there and try to help this team win. I'm confident. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go practice today. I'm enjoying football, loving football. Really, now I'm just waiting for that opportunity to come by again.
What do you think he's eating? What
Couldn't
would your
tell.
pre-practice meal be? PB&J, protein bar?
PB&J sounds good right now.
I would love a PB&J. I think I'm just hungry. I don't know what Caleb Farley's going to say in that spot, other than just trying to get back to being in rhythm, being in groove. Here's the thing, though. Like, if you're what is he? Is he the fourth corner right now? Is he behind Terrence Mitchell? I know they put out an unofficial depth chart with Terrence Mitchell on it behind Caleb Farley, but I mean, is he the fourth guy? It would feel that way. So how many reps is there for the fourth guy outside of certain packages during practice? That's why, questions about Malik Willis's development. Well, he's running scout team, so what's it matter? Questions about Chigakonkwo is, by snap count, the fourth tight end on the roster after the Raiders game. What's the snap count look like for him in practice? Additionally, it's tough to get these reps. And certainly, like, for example, a quarterback. What quarterback is going to want to give up a red zone rep during a week of practice? Not a single one. They want all of them. And it's not because they want to suffocate the competition. It's because they want to make sure that they're buttoned up on exactly what they're going to have to do in as many different situations as the coaching staff and the defense can present to them. That's the kind of thing that you just look at and say, all right, does he legitimately have the time? Does he have the reps to make these kind of improvements at this point? We'll see how it goes. Give me some polls.
I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Because the polls have closed and the votes have been tallied. It's time for a poll update. And he's a good boy. Buck Rising show producer and correspondent, Lucas Panzica.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford. You can custom order any new Ford from Two Rivers. They will deliver it to you when it's manufactured. What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? Our guy V-Love says getting your Twitter account hacked because you took a phone call from somebody claiming to be Twitter verification and gave up your info. Did that happen to V? Who did that happen to?
Twitter verification, no. That has to have been something that happened to a sports media person if he's chastising them that way. I don't know. I mean, V, is entitled to apply for verification if he wants or get verified by Twitter if he wants. I didn't see specifically what he's talking about. I didn't do it.
Chris says allowing
Did you do it?
No.
Did you get your Twitter hacked?
I did not. I've never gotten my Twitter hacked.
Mickey's has been hacked like 6 times. I don't know what he's doing.
Chris says allowing non-football personnel inside the team sideline access and then giving a Gatorade bath to a coach. I don't hate Barstool and the teams don't matter, but that was a bad precedent. Referencing the Barstool presence, there were some Barstool guys on the sideline in Neyland, and a couple of them, Theo Vaughn, the comedian,
I'm unfamiliar.
With Caleb Presley of Barstool with Theo Vaughn.
The guy that does the Sunday conversations?
Yes.
Okay.
He was on the sideline at Neyland, and he and Theo Vaughn gave Heupel the Gatorade bath, like while he was shaking hands with Napier.
Well, I mean, those guys are down there for a reason because the recruits are there. The recruits love Barstool guys. It's respectfully to Theo Vaughn. I'm unfamiliar. I don't watch a lot of stand-up comedy, so he may be incredible. He may be super popular, and I'm just not on my radar. But Actually, I had somebody send me that video because didn't the team's account, the team football account, put it out as a reel because it's good PR.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Sam Pittman having to defend at a press conference why he tweeted out that Arkansas is proud to be back in the top 10. Because he all but said in a press conference, I'm recruiting you idiots.
It's not for you. It's for the 18-year-olds. Titans for Life says people thinking the Jags are a good football team.
The Jags are a good football team. Don't be dumb about it.
And Brett says the Colts are the dumbest thing in sports this week with no explanation. And Chris says Rob's call, was definitely the dumbest as he called in to tell us people care way more about baseball, that attendance numbers are much higher for baseball than football. So we punished him by sending him to a football game.
Breathe.
What's the best advantage the Titans have over the Indianapolis Colts? Puka says quarterback.
Ooh. Quarterback with better protection. Yeah, it looks, you're going to make me eat my words, right? Matt Ryan with bad protection is not as good a quarterback as Ryan Tannehill with better protection. Ryan Tannehill has largely been kept upright so far this season. They're having to do it in a lot of different ways that, take receivers out of the passing game, especially in third downs. But I think that right now, Ryan Tannehill has consistently been playing quarterback at a higher level than Matt Ryan, even as they got the win on Sunday.
Dylan says Titans have the coaching advantage. Benji says if they get Ola and Bud Dupree back, then that pass rush against the Colts offensive line is the big advantage.
Here's what I'll say about Bud Dupree. He is getting ready in the locker room, so it appears that he is going to practice today. It would be a good sign for both him and Ola if he is available. Oh, they found Terrence Mitchell in the locker room, finally, after he ran out on us on Sunday. I hope somebody asked him where he's in such a rush to get to. What happened, bud?
What's the biggest advantage the Colts have over the Titans? Puka says they keep playing in the second half.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Well, it's not that they stopped playing in the second half. It's that they make god-awful mistakes, and then they play a conservative style of football that's not going to lend itself to, widening their margin of victory. Because I think you saw both examples of that in the second half, specifically against the Raiders.
Travis says it's Jonathan Taylor against the Titans' run defense so far this year.
Run defense, not good. Run defense, not good for the Titans. They were second best rush defense in football last year. Jonathan Taylor coming in, or I guess you go into Jonathan Taylor's house on Sunday, does not lend itself well. They're going to have a much better contain plan for Jonathan Taylor, given what they've been against the run so far through 3 games this season.
Josh Jacobs, 13 carries on Sunday for 66 yards. The Raiders as a team averaged 5 yards per carry.
And that's with some kind of illness that allegedly kept him from traveling with the team initially. Josh Jacobs was like a game-time decision up until the workout about an hour before kick. And they said, yeah, bud, go get him. They're not a very good rush defense. You'll be fine.
The Raiders also playing catch-up for a lot of that game, went away from the run a good bit.
Sure.
Who is the better football team right now, Alabama or Georgia? 86% give it to the Georgia Bulldogs.
That's tough for me to say. I just default to the thing that I know. It's not that Georgia's the defending national champion. They do look overwhelming, even if they gave Kent State gave them a decent game. I cannot go anywhere but Alabama until, Saban's finally gone.
Obviously, the Alabama-Texas game is really the evidence that you have right now to say that Alabama is surely not as good of a football team as Georgia. And Georgia obviously has just been fantastic through the first 2 weeks other than on Saturday. But I feel like you need to see Alabama do that, what they did against Texas, several times before you can start to say, okay, this team is vulnerable.
It's not the same thing.
Those are the polls.
All right, very good. That's the show. Tomorrow, Rashad Weaver will join us at 11:15. We will talk a lot more about the Titans and the Colts matchup. We'll have Greg Cosell to break down the game specifically. The new episode of The Install, by the way, with Greg will be available at 6 p.m. in your podcast feed. So make sure you've subscribed or followed that show wherever it is that you consume your podcasts ahead of time. Back at it tonight on primetime. We'll, I'm sure, talk a little more Titans Colts there. And if not, I'll catch you on the radio show starting at 10 a.m.